Parthaya pratibodhitam bhagavata narayanena swayam yasena gratitam purana munina madhye mahabharatam Advaita amrita varshinim bhagavatim ashtadasha adhyayinim ambatvam anusandadhami Bhagavadgita bhavadveshinim. O Mother, Bhagavad Gita, I repeatedly meditate on you, who are indeed the 18 chapters in the middle of the Mahabharata, composed of the ancient sage Vyasa, taught for the benefit of Partha by the Lord Narayana himself, the goddess, the shower of the nectar of Advaita, the enemy of rebirth. This whole manifestation that we experience, both the perceived and the unperceived, the known and the unknown, this includes your very own known thoughts and unknown thoughts, future events, past events, present events, this entire manifestation that we experience through our five senses, that we can infer, that we can speak of, that we can think about, is Saguna Ishvara. And Saguna Ishvara is Mithya. What is Mithya? Dependent reality. Dependent on what? Nirguna Ishvara. For example, just like golden ornaments, many of them, as fascinating as they are, as interesting they are to speak of and to purchase and to chase, they're all Mithya. However, it doesn't mean that we put them either higher or lower. We put them exactly in their right place. What do we mean by this? Because all golden ornaments are Mithya, all of them have their existence in the one single gold. So, right from the beginning, we started, all manifestations that we experience, that we talk about, are Saguna Ishvara. Saguna Ishvara has its reality in Nirguna Ishvara. Therefore, if someone asks, what is the point of talking about these vibhutis, these glories, then my question will be a counter question, and I will say, tell me one moment when you are not talking about Ishvara's glories. This whole manifestation is Saguna Ishvara. Even the very thought of asking what is the point of hearing these glories, those very words, that very thought is also Saguna Ishvara, which has its reality in Nirguna Ishvara. Even the letter A, or the sound that we utter, is also Saguna Ishvara. Therefore, we can never get out of what is already true. So whenever we speak about these vibhutis, we are only ever speaking about the one reality. Therefore, the question of what is the point, or how is this going to change my life, simply doesn't apply. Because even the question, how is this going to change my life, is also a vibhuti. Therefore, rather focus on something that is glory-worthy, rather than one's own thoughts as to why should we listen and how is this going to make any difference. And what kind of glories are these? These are glories which Krishna has enumerated in chapter 10, and they include, like the ones that we are going to see now. Let's start with verse 28. Together. Ayuddhanamaham vajram dhenunam asmika madhuka prajanashchasmi kandarpaha sarpanam asmi vasukihi.
Among the weapons, I am Vajra. Among the cows, I am the wish-fulfilling cow, Kamadhenu. I am Kandarpa, Manmada, the god of love, who is the cause for progeny. Among the poisonous snakes, I am Vasuki.
Aham Vajram Ayuddhanam. Among the weapons, I am Vajra. And this weapon comes from the great Maharishi Dadhichi. And this weapon, Vajra, is the most powerful weapon in existence. Why? We will see now. There's a story in the Purana where the Asura called Vritrasura was extremely powerful, and he had a boon. No weapon could kill him. So he had a fight with Indra. And Indra lost. So Indra fled the scene and left his white elephant, Airavata, which we spoke about last week. And where did Indra go? He went to Lord Shankara. Shankara we spoke about last week, not Adi Shankara, because Adi Shankara came later. And then Shankara thought, what should we do? So Shankara goes to Brahmaji. So Shankara and Brahmaji together, they go to further help Vishnu. So then Vishnu recommends, you know what, we'll tell Indra to befriend Vritrasura and then kill him when he's off guard. Smart. So Indra, knowing that Vritrasura was extremely powerful and that no weapon could kill him, thought, okay, now that I do have a plan, what do I do? So he noticed, while he was thinking, a great Maharishi, Dadhichi, who was on earth performing tapas. Tapas means mental strength, mental sadhana. And he had extremely vigilant sadhana performed for many, many years. So Indra came to him and prayed and asked, can I please borrow your spinal cord? And Dadhichi thought about it. And so he sacrificed his life and offered his spinal cord to Indra so that Indra can make a weapon out of this spinal cord called the Vajra. We just said Vajra is the most powerful weapon. So Indra used this weapon, the spinal cord weapon called Vajra, to kill Vritrasura. So what's the symbolism of this, right? The weapon called Vajra is made out of what? Tapas. What is tapas? Mental strength. And Vritrasura said, no weapon could kill me. In other words, no physical weapon, no material weapon could kill me. And yet here we have Dadhichi, who had incredible sadhana, and out of his tapas, his mental strength, this weapon was able to kill or neutralize material. In other words, spiritual is always more powerful than material. For example, we had Gandhi, who used spiritual principle of ahimsa, non-injury, to basically convince a very strong material British Empire to stop unfairly treating the Indian system, abusing the Indians. And he didn't have any weapons. He had solely ahimsa, non-injury. And through that, he was able to basically convince this powerful material army. So in that same way, spiritual is always stronger than material. Then, dhenuna kamadhuka asmi. Among the milk-giving cows, I am kamadhenu, which not only can give milk, but can also give you anything you ask. So that's a nice cow to have. And the symbolism of this is, what do you think a cow that can give you anything represents? Knowledge? Okay, where is knowledge contained? But in the mind, good. Mathu's always on track. I like your answer. See, it all comes together. So the mind equals kamadhenu cow. The cow which can give you anything if you use it properly. So this cow, which is not only giving you milk, but it can, with persistence, with perseverance, with devotion, with dedication, with strictness, like I shall and nothing shall stop me. Over time, that very mind is able to accomplish many great things. This entire world that we enjoy and that we revel is made out of the one mind. used in different ways, in different perspectives. Everything we see, all of the technology that we use, came from the mind. And this very mind is the very mind that is able to, and the only mind that's able to attain moksha. So therefore, this mind should be used for the highest purpose in life. Also, there's a nice story where King Vishwamitra was traveling with his soldiers in the forest. And he encountered a small hut. He came inside this hut and he saw sage Vashishta. And sage Vashishta was able to feed the king and his entire army. So the king was like, how is this possible? He was able to feed his entire army with what? With the Kamadhenu cow. So immediately the king, being a little bit of a power-hungry, Raja Guna dominating king, he thought, I want something like this for my kingdom. So he said, I want this cow. And Vashishta said, well, this cow will only give you everything if you are a Brahmana. The king was a Kshatriya. And the king thought, well, I'm going to vow to become a Brahmana. However, the cow still did not yield any milk. And the king wondered why. And the reason was because the king vowed to become a Brahmana for the sake of future agenda. He had something he wanted, so therefore it was only a temporary fix. And thus the cow did not yield anything. So then that's when the king realized, I have to indeed drop everything. I have to renounce everything. So true renunciation, we spoke in chapter 5, is mental renunciation. It is not this idea necessarily of physical renunciation, of dropping everything and leaving the world and going to the Himalaya and leaving friends and family. It's got nothing to do with that, because the mind that is going away is still there. So that mind can be treated here as much as it can be treated anywhere else. Thus, King Vishwamitra became a Maharishi himself because he renounced everything. He realized, what's the point of this greediness? So he had Raja Guna, and then he had to let that go. The lesson is, as long as there is Raja Guna, as long as I have some expectation in the future, as long as I'm learning this to gain something in the future, I'm learning this to maybe, increase my knowledge base in the future, that is presence of Raja Guna. And what happens if that's the case? The cow, Kamadhenu, will not yield what is possible with this human mind. And make sure that it's not about, let me be learning this so that I can get something out of it for myself. There is no myself here. Nothing's apart from you. Everything is you already. Everything's made out of the one same content. We just spoke about it in the beginning, the one gold. So it is as good as one ornament going, okay, how do you call when you embellish something? When you add more detail, when you make it prettier, when you make it more beautiful. Let me use this to make myself more embellished. It doesn't work like that. So all of the desires and all of these selfish background thoughts have to be released. So this means there's no way a person can cheat in Vedanta, because it's just not going to this knowledge is not going to become firm. So they have to start to think, how can I indeed contribute versus how can I take for myself and how can I benefit? In other words, it rebuilds and it reinforces the ahamkara, the very person who tries to build him or herself up. So that's something that we need to look over. Prajanaha cha asmi kandarpaha. I am Kandarpa, the god of love. I am the life-giving passion, the one who causes progeny. Therefore, parents are not the ones who cause children. What causes children? What causes that thought when two people say, let's make a child? It's not parents. Because you can have two couples and they can say, we don't want a child. So what is that first thought to say, let's give life to a new offspring? That's not belonging to, because a parent just is a mind. That is called Kandarpaha, the god of love, the progeny, the principle that makes two beings say, yes, we want to give life to a new offspring. And that is not something that comes for all. So therefore, even that principle right there belongs to Ishvara. Even that is not yours. So remember, these are vibhutis. Everything I'm saying here is Ishvara's glory. Sarpanam Vasukihi Asmi. Among the poisonous snakes, I am Vasuki. Now, who is Vasuki? Well, Vasuki is a snake wrapped around Mount Mandara during the churning of the ocean. It is also a source of great fear. It represents great fear. And Bhagavan says that poisonous snake is also me. Why? Because nothing is apart from me. Nothing is apart from the one cause, which is the truth of the whole universe. Therefore, even fear that we experience about something or someone, never forget, Bhagavan is right there. How? As the very awareness of that fear. The fact that there is awareness of fear, what is Bhagavan? The consciousness principle, para prakriti. Therefore, Bhagavan is never away from even from our greatest fears that we want to not confront. And what's the symbolism of Vasuki snake? First of all, we said Vasuki represents the ahamkara last week. The ahamkara leads to karta bhokta, that means the door. And the door ultimately is going to create either dukkham or sukham, suffering or enjoyment. That means every enjoyment has a door behind it. Every suffering has a door behind it, has one who is taking ownership of that enjoyment and that suffering. And that ownership principle is called the ahamkara. And this kind of doing, this kind of karta bhokta, equals samsara. Because the person does something and then they enjoy the result. And then to enjoy the result, you have to continue being the doer, because who's going to enjoy the result? I want to enjoy the result. I'm not going to let you enjoy the result. So this means when I enjoy the result, I am putting out more thoughts into the field as to how to continue enjoying this. Because, if I'm laying on the hammock, then I'm going, life is so good. I want more of this. So in other words, the very enjoyment is making me contemplate how to recreate the scenario in the future, which makes or reinforces the ahamkara, reinforces the doer enjoyer. And also, Vasuki is an ornament of Lord Shiva. Have you noticed the snake around? I think we'll show you now. And you think, why is a snake around Shiva? What does a snake represent? The snake represents, first of all, we said ahamkara. In other words, is Shiva going, you have to destroy your ahamkara? No. Look how relaxed Shiva is, the Lord of the universe. The ahamkara is wrapped around, in other words, he knows how to handle the ahamkara. He's not afraid of it. The ahamkara is, slithering around, and he's just completely relaxed. So the symbolism is just how the poisonous Vasuki snake is an ornament of Lord Shiva, in the same way the poisonous ahamkara is the ornament of a wise person. A wise person doesn't go, let's get rid of my ahamkara. Impossible. Ahamkara is a mechanism used to operate in this world. Therefore, like Shiva, one is able to own ahamkara and see it for what it is. Instead of this word, let's destroy it. You're never going to destroy the ahamkara as long as the body is alive. Anantaschasmi naganam varuno yadasamaham pitrnam aryamachasmi yamasain yamatamaham.
I am Ananta among the many-headed snakes, Varuna among the gods of water, Aryama among the mains, and among those who enforce discipline I am Yama.
Naganam antaha cha asmi. According to Puranas, there are one-headed snakes and many-headed snakes. In this case, it says I am Ananta. That means I am the many-headed snakes. And now you're saying, why is snake repeated? We just spoke about a snake in last verse. Well, the last verse, snake is poisonous. The snake in this verse is not poisonous. And Ananta is also called Adishesha. That's another name for it. It is a 1,000-headed snake, and it is associated to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu uses the snake as what? As a nice spring mattress. Why would he do that? And they're very soft, they're spongy, and they're cool. So Vishnu uses the snake as a spring mattress, very comfortable. That's one side of it. However, the important part is, what's the symbolism behind the snake? What does a snake represent? Ananta. What does the Ananta snake represent? Unending, yeah, Ananta. So Lord Vishnu, you can see Brahmaji comes out of Lord Vishnu's navel. I spoke about that. And he's resting comfortably. Now, what does Vishnu represent? Ishvara is playing the role, or Ishvara is undergoing the role of a sustainer. Then we call Ishvara Vishnu. It doesn't change who Ishvara or what Ishvara is. It's just to refer to a different principle. So Vishnu is Saguna Ishvara, because we said sustainer. And the snake, Ananta, is Nirguna Ishvara. In other words, Vishnu has its existence in his own Swarupam of Nirguna Brahman. The very Swarupam of Vishnu is Nirguna. Just like all the ornaments have their existence in the gold. Aham Varunaha Yadasam. Among the presiding deities of different rivers like Ganga, Yamuna, I am Varuna. In other words, every body of water has a deity behind it. We will speak more about what a deity specifically means next session. And even your tear, if we cry, that's a body of water, so that's also a deity. Even a puddle is a deity. A raindrop is a deity. So in this case, it says, I am Varuna Devata. In other words, I am the total body of water called the ocean, the biggest one. And then, Asmi Aryama Pitrnam. I am Aryama, among ancestors. People who live a religious life, so they have decent punya in their life. However, they do not follow the Vaidika rituals. What happens? They go to Pitr Loka. So if even a Christian who thinks they're going to go to heaven just by going to church once a week, forget about it. To go to Swarga Loka requires a devoted life of rituals, precisely as prescribed in the scripture pertaining to the person's interest. So these people who generally take care of their family, and they are good, they're working and they're supporting, the best they'll get is Pitra Loka. Pitra Loka is one loka above Bhur Loka. Bhur Loka is earth. And Pitra Loka is presided over by Pitra Devatas. Now the head of Pitra Devatas is Aryama. And what's the meaning of this? Loka is a world of itself. Every loka is, even the Bhur Loka, the earth, is divided into colonies. So what do you mean by that? Tell me this, why does a human being, one of them gets born in a random village in Africa, and there's hardly any food, mosquitoes, diseases, 5 brothers also starving, the father's probably uneducated, mother's uneducated, the water is spoiled, they're in the womb for 9 months. 5 days later, the baby dies. If Ishvara is the Sarva Jnanam, all knowledge, why would Ishvara create a situation whereby a baby gets born and gives sincere, it's a task to carry a child for 9 months, only to die 5 days later. Why would that happen?
For the benefit of the parents.
Huh?
For the benefit of the parents.
Past karma.
Excellent, 100% correct. In other words, there is no such thing as accidents in this universe. Even the mom herself who had to bear the child for 9 months, it was also her karma to experience that situation. Even the very child who got only to live 5 days, that was also his punya papa mixture of karma from the last slide. This is what we call sanchita karma. And that sanchita karma turned into prarabdha karma, and it lasted for how long? 5 days only. And then the child ended. Whereas another child, on the other side of the world, gets born in Queen Elizabeth's family and has all the privileges in the world. Huh? Now, why is this? Why do we have so many colonies, even in the very loka of the earth? Because the person, depending on their mixture of punya, papa, karma, is exactly the environment that they get. That's why we said last time, there is no accidents. Everything is beautifully ordained by this system which provides exactly what the person needs to get according to what they deserve. And this is not only true on earth, it is true in all lokas. Chaham yamaha sanyamatam. Among all of those who enforce dharma for the benefit of the society, like the police force, who do good, who sincerely protect the society, I am Lord Yama, the king of death, who I will even take their own life. Nobody escapes me, even those who do good for the others. Prahladashchasmi daityanam kalach kalayatamaham mrganam chamrgendroham vainate yascha pakshinam.
I am Prahlada among the Daityas, the Asuras who are born of Diti. Among things that reckon, I am the time. Among the wild animals, I am the lion. I am Garuda among the birds.
Very nice reading. Prahladaha daityanam. I am Prahlada among the Asuras who are born of Diti. So Brahmaji, out of his Sankalpa, created 14 Manasa Putras. Remember in lesson 80 we said Brahmaji created 14 Manus? So Manu and Manasa Putra are synonymous words. Putra means son, Manasa means of the mind. That means Brahmaji created 14 sons from his Sankalpa. He visualized. And yes, I know in the Puranas, some of them say 7, some say 10, some say 21. In the Gita it says 14, so therefore we will stick with 14. Because Gita is considered Shastra, therefore more accurate. Now, out of these 14, who was the most prominent? Kashyapa. Kashyapa had 2 wives, Diti and Aditi. Diti is a Rajaguna wife. And children born of Diti are called Asuras. Whoever is born from mother Diti is an Asura. And Asura represents unhealthy mind, unhealthy thoughts, rajasic thoughts, selfish thoughts. That's why the Asuras, we said, are power hungry. And Aditi has to be a Sattva Guna wife. And her children are all Devas or Devatas. That means gods. Devas represents a healthy mind. That means a mind which is empowering. It thinks uplifting thoughts. And the symbolism of this is what? Kashyapa is one, has 2 wives. What's the symbolism?
The mind has 2 thoughts of mind.
Yeah.
Good and bad
We
are
have
all
good and bad in all of us.
Very
part of Ishvara.
good. Okay, what does Kashyapa represent?
Man.
Someone said, oh, you said it. Mind.
Yeah.
Mind. And what does Asura and Deva represent?
Rajasic and sattvic minds.
2 kinds of vritti thoughts. Vritti, we said, thought modifications. Therefore, depending on how I use the one mind, is the kind of thoughts, either asuric thoughts or Deva thoughts, either rajasic thoughts or selfless sattvic thoughts. Now, knowing that, who is Prahlada? Prahlada is born from Diti, and her children are Asuras. Therefore, technically, Prahlada is an Asura. And Prahlada was an unusual fella, because we said some time ago that Asura can also be Rajaguna, and then Sattvaguna and Tamaguna. It's not always Rajaguna, Tamaguna, and Sattvaguna. So in this case, Prahlada was a Rajaguna, Sattvaguna, Tamaguna. So his mind was clear enough to worship Lord Narayana. And he kept saying, Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha, Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha. And his father, Hiranyakashipu, was a mixture between Rakshasa and Asura, more like a Rakshasa, because Hiranyakashipu refused to allow anyone to call Lord except him. That means everyone's supposed to say, Om Namo Hiranyakashipu Namaha. If you don't say my name, you are gone. In other words, a very power-hungry king. And Prahlada refused. He kept saying, Om Namo Narayanaya Namaha, no matter what. So one day the father, Hiranyakashipu, he says, hey, so where is your Lord Narayana? Is he in this pillar? Yes, he's also there. And what does the father do? He hits the pillar and it breaks open. What happens? Lord Vishnu comes out. Now, before we move on, Hiranyakashipu also had a boon, a very interesting one. No human being could kill him, number one. He could not be killed during day and night. That's hard, right? He couldn't be killed inside or outside. Okay? There's either one or the other, right? And he could not fall on the ground if he's killed. Big challenge. So Lord Vishnu appears. How?
With the spinal cord weapon?
No. No, this is a different. That was Indra. Now this is Vishnu and Prahlada. So Vishnu appears with a lion's head and the body of a human being. So number one, solved. Okay, he's not a human being. He appears at twilight. It's neither day nor night. Number two, solved. He appears between the inside and the outside, kind of like being between the two, the edge of the door and outside. So you're neither inside nor you're outside. And he takes Hiranyakashipu on his lap and kills him, so he doesn't fall on the ground. And then he declares Prahlada as the greatest, one of the greatest bhakta, because Prahlada refused to buy into a name of the Lord that is false. Despite his life being in danger, he said, no, I believe in the Lord so much, nobody can deter me from what I inherently know to be true. And because of that, Prahlada was a great bhakta. What's the symbolism of this? Prahlada was born how? As an asura. In other words, the varna, the caste system, absolutely makes no difference for a human being. If a person is born in the most disadvantaged family, without any privileges, without any education, it means absolutely nothing. All that matters is what kind of actions does a person put out on a daily basis. That is what makes a person. So who you are today is nothing but a reflection of the past actions, daily actions, and thoughts that we have applied in every moment. Therefore, what dictates a person's identity on a relative level is their karma and their attitude of how they perform their karma. Therefore, we have no right to ever put down or think that someone is incapable. We just do not know, because later on they can be someone very great. For example, we had sage Drona, who was born as a Brahmana, and owing to his decision at the Kurukshetra, he decided to be a Kshatriya. So he went down. Or we even had Ravana, who was born as a Brahmana, and he decided through his actions made him a Rakshasa. Therefore, who we are today is who we choose to be. And who we are being today is what we are tomorrow. Therefore, it is never too late. Aham kalaha kalayatam. I am time that is ticking away, even now. And nothing escapes from this time. Now, more specifically, kalayatam is the one who keeps account, like a bookkeeper. No number goes out. The accountant has every track record of all of the numbers. I am that. I am kalayatam. And keeps account of what? Sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, agami karma. For whom? Every single jiva, including aquatic creatures, including insects, including land animals, including human beings, including devatas, including asuras, including rakshasas. Everyone in the universe is kept precisely on track by me, Kalayatam, the one who keeps track records. Now, question. How do you generate papa karma?
By bad action.
Negative actions, negative thoughts.
Bad thoughts.
By transgressing.
No, you're not thoughts, you have to do actions.
Action.
Transgressions, yeah, applied in the field. How do you gain papa karma or punya karma? Through deliberate actions. So now what happens if you accidentally step on an ant, which we're doing every single day? Is that papa karma? Why not?
Because it was not intentional.
Yeah, because we're not intending to do that. If we're like a child who takes a magnifying glass and burns ants, that is papa karma. Yeah. What happens if we have to deliberately hurt, like we have to cut grass in a garden? That's deliberately hurt because plants are jivas. And we have to attend to the garden. That is deliberate. So that gives us what? Papa karma. How do we negate that?
By tending to the garden in the glory of the Lord.
Okay, one way.
And the thought of preventing fires and preventing a lot of good thoughts in there.
Well, I mean, more specifically, we have prayashchitta karma in the rituals. And one way, so you have to now go and learn prayer. You have to do whole puja and after cutting your grass. So you can just say sorry. I have to cut you because the garden is going to get out of control and it's going to contribute to a unfancy situation. Okay, something that acknowledges that I have taken the life away of a jiva. Because imagine you're a plant and you're just enjoying yourself when the sun is suddenly whoosh, out of nowhere. It's like, serious. No, it's a big... So even a plant has a subtle body. It can feel emotions, right? So obviously you have to do some kind of an atonement. That's what prayashchitta karma is.
But how can that be? Because human beings, they kill someone, they go to the church and, confess and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And then they go out again and then do something again.
As long
it's
as
like that for the grass. We're asking for forgiveness after knowing we're going to cut them.
2 weeks then cut them again.
Yeah, but you're not killing
You don't cut them, you get a fine anyway.
Get a gardener, get a gardener, right? To cut
That's
it for
sorry
you.
being genuine. Like, you're just saying, I'm sorry, but I've got to cut you.
You could also say that it's the grass's karma. It's what Ishvara is doing. What Ishvara is using to fulfill the grass's karma.
That's also part of it.
But it's like hair. The more you cut, the more it grows. So you're actually helping it to grow.
It's a form of nurturing it too.
Yeah.
It's like, with fruit trees.
Yeah,
You
the more you
trim them
prune.
down, you nurture them so they can bear more fruit.
Yeah.
So it's just part of the cycle.
Yeah, just say sorry in summary.
He's passing the papam thing to me. He said,
She's getting grass next week.
because he's been cutting the grass all this time. Now he wants me to cut.
No, but if you tell him to do it, you get the problem.
But if you're cutting the grass, the
I don't
grass
know,
is
nothing.
still alive. It can grow, but if you actually weed something, then you're actually taking the weed's life.
Yeah, I do.
So
weeds.
pruning is okay, I suppose. Or, pruning is okay because you haven't effectively rooted the thing.
But weeding is also okay because I look at it as you got to remove negative things to make positive things, isn't it? So you're removing something negative
isn't
because that's
that-
killing something else.
Isn't that
Killing the good plants.
duty that Krishna explains
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Arjuna when he's got doubts about fighting in the...
Yeah, we'll get to that now. Yeah, we'll get to that. Very good point.
I think ultimately you've just got to do the actions with purity of glorification.
Yeah, good,
of the
very
Lord.
Yeah, the mind should be
Purity,
pure.
yeah.
Because even if your actions are actually wrong,
And it's not okay.
like you were
good.
saying about who judges whether a weed is a negative thing or a positive thing. It's just a plant. It's just a flower. You know?
Good, good.
And
And
so-
also, I think that's a very good point. I also like your points, Martin, because it gets my mind thinking. Also, I think it's important that if we think I'm going to cut this so my neighbor can look good, I can impress others, that is certainly
Yeah.
That's
papa.
bad.
Yeah. But if one just cuts it because they want to attend to the it's
Yeah.
just a duty. So there's no agenda to impress others, then it's probably a lot less papa karma. Yeah. So it also depends the attitude behind our actions. That determines the amount of punya or papa in our actions. Yeah.
But I think cutting grass is like cutting your own hair, you know. I mean, it's you know.
The more you give, the more you get.
Well,
I'm
grass is,
blaming the poor Baba.
it's worth bringing up the point just to make you think. I'm not.
Yeah.
But you do need to cut grass in this country because it's no fire risk. Fire hazard.
Well, I've got tons of grass there.
Yeah,
14 days.
On weekends.
So this means I am Dharma Raja. I am the king of Dharma. I am the one who ordains karma palam according to karma. What is karma? Law of justice. That means you will not escape me. You will be accountable according to the quality of actions you have put out into the field. That's why the intention behind every action is crucial. It's not necessarily the action of cutting the grass, but what is the intention behind? That's what matters. And then Bhagavan says, I am the principle that is responsible for everyone's or producing everyone's karma and karma palam. I keep it together. I hold it all together. And this means that the Jagat is created why? To help all jivas exhaust their punya, papa, karma. Everyone that's born, including us here, is born to continue exhausting karma that was unfinished in last life. Including, what if you're bored with this class? Is that exhausting your papa or punya? Not enjoying the teaching, is that exhausting your papa or your punya?
Punya.
No.
Exhausted.
Yeah, exhausting. Remember, when something is exhausted, it's active. So therefore, if a person is suffering, what's being exhausted? Papa.
And I thought exhausting was the opposite. If you've exhausted something, it's gone.
Well, exhausting is a process, right? So it's so suffering. So that means I'm exhausting. For example, a child is angry, and eventually, after some time, it's all gone, right? So exhaustion means it's in the process of evaporating.
So being
So it's
bored
good
in
to be
class is a
angry.
good thing.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
good to be angry.
This is the place to be bored, right? What if you're enjoying the class? That is called exhausting your
Papa,
Punya.
papa.
punya.
I still reckon it's in there.
Think about this, Martin. That's
Well, I
exhausting
never
your
enjoying
punya.
that. Interesting.
Because
Yeah, if you
the,
find it interesting.
the whole point is we're here to try and exhaust our papa. Punya.
Yeah.
All our-
gain punya and you want to exhaust
Yes.
papa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gaining punya by listening, by applying, and
Yeah.
you're exhausting papa
And
because you're not doing something
enjoying
else.
that, yeah.
Yeah, very good, Mathu. She always puts it on track. Now, what happens if there's a family member? Okay, suppose that you as a body are sick. Nothing dangerous, but just sick. And one of your family members has to take care of you. That means they have to stay up all night for you. Now, from your standpoint, the one who is sick, is that your punya or is that your papa that's being exhausted? The fact that someone's taking care of you. What's being exhausted?
Punya.
Punya. Who said punya? You said punya.
Punya.
Why? Why punya?
Because of my past deeds, punya,
That somebody
Yeah.
is helping you.
when I'm physically weak, yeah,
Yeah,
that punya is being repaid
good.
to me
Yeah.
because of my past deeds, my past karma,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've got to accept it gratefully.
And it's a privilege to be taken care of by someone. Not everyone gets to have that privilege. So in other words, the fact that some family member is taking care of me, staying up all night, I'm exhausting my punya. That means I've done something in the past that is good and it's being repaid now. But for them, what's being exhausted?
The papa.
Papa. Because, they have to stay up all night. They would rather be sleeping. So the point of this conversation is everything in this universe is perfectly ordained by Dharma Raja, the one who ordains karma for every single jiva at every single moment of time. There's no such thing as accidents in this world.
That can be quite confusing, because I would say if someone is serving and taking care of someone who's sick, they're not exhausting their papa. I think they're gaining punya.
Same thing.
Gaining the punya.
Yeah,
They're exhausting it.
It's kind of the same thing.
It's two sides of the coin.
It's two-sided.
It's two-sided,
So
good.
it's very, you've got to watch how you think. And
So they're exhausting, in a sense, they're exhausting their past papa
the bank account.
and
Yeah.
compensating for it
punya.
by building
Gaining
some
the punya.
punya. which is
Good.
what you
And
said.
also, suppose that I don't want to take care because I've got things that I want to do, but I have to. Then it's exhausting papa. But if I want to gladly do it because it's my family member, then it is certainly punya.
And the attitude makes a difference there, right? If they're doing it with gritted teeth and anger, then in a sense they're not building
that
up
person
punya. On the other hand, they're
exhausting papa.
That is
But it's not in a simple.
How do you know you're exhausting punya? You want to be there. Okay, it's like, this is right. This is right. I want to do this, and I will not be doing anything else because I feel good helping.
And that's why you can't cast judgment on someone else in that regard, because you don't know the hidden part that's inside them, which is motivating, because that's inside them, for them to know. So even though there might be visual clues that makes you mentally project something, it could be wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's hard
But you
to.
could say that if you're being there, gritted teeth, you're suffering more. So
No, in
You
that
are,
sense, you're still paying for your papa, and at the same time not building up punya.
punya, okay.
Because you're not, if you approach
Giving
it
it
healthy,
freely,
if you give it freely and say, look, I want to help,
Okay.
and this is my papa, I got to go it with an open mind,
Mm.
it's just going to pass away, then you're building up punya.
Okay. The point of this is, it is not to necessarily now see what's papa, what's punya, but to appreciate that this system, this intelligence called nimitta karanam, the efficient cause, is able to hold all of this together and apply the perfect at the right time to the right jiva in the right moment, at the right time, in the right place. And we as human beings, we cannot even keep track of what? Our own to-dos. We give to-dos to, like a mobile device. And this nimitta karanam, all knowledge, sarva jnanam, keeps track of everyone's from the beginningless beginning to the endless end. Yeah, so you can start to appreciate how glorious this intelligence is, this sarva jnanam or nimitta karanam. That's the point. Because the point is to appreciate the vibhuti of Ishvara. Mrganam vainateyaha pakshinam. Among the birds, I am Garuda. Okay. And the characteristics of the bird Garuda is it flies very high, even higher than the vultures. It looks like an eagle with a white band around its neck. And this glory to fly so high, this capacity to soar to great heights, this is also my glory, says Krishna. So this means next time we see a bird, don't just see a bird, oh, okay, bird, wow. It's Ishvara's glory to carry that bird in the air and intelligently fly and navigate. How the wings, the aerodynamics interact with the wind, that's also nimitta karanam. Also, seeing this bird called Garuda is considered a good omen. So go find the bird now.
Plenty in Siddhivadi.
Yeah?
Plenty in the mountains.
Next verse.
Garuda Airlines.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of.
That's a good one. Okay, next. Bhavanav bhavatam asmi Rama shastra bhartam aham Jashana makaraschasmi Srotasam asmi jannavi.
Among the purifiers, I am air. I am Brahma among those who wear weapons. Among the fish, I am shark, and among the rivers, I am Ganga.
Asmi pavanaha pavatam. Among the purifying agents, I am the wind, Vayu. The wind, if you think about it, keeps the atmosphere clean. It removes odor from the environment. It makes breathing pleasant. It supplies carbon dioxide to the plants, and it supplies oxygen to human beings. And this glory that we breathe even now is Ishwara's glory. Can we forget Ishwara? No, because while we're forgetting Ishwara, we're doing what? We're breathing air. And Ishwara is in the very air that we're breathing. Therefore, that cleansing, life-giving capacity, I am. And then, Aham Ramaha Shastra Bhritam. I am Rama, who is an avatar of Vishnu, that means the son of Dasharatha, among the weapon wielders. Now, there's more symbolism here. All Vedic gods have weapons. You will notice this. And, for example, Shiva will have the Parashu, the battle axe. Vishnu will have the mace, Kaumodaki it's called. And why do they have weapons? The symbolism. The answer is to protect Dharma. If we don't know this, then if we see Hindu gods, we will immediately judge them as violent. Even Muhammad, who took up the sword, why does he have a sword? Of course, the general society will misinterpret. But what does the weapon represent? If you don't follow Dharma, I'm going to cut you off. When do these gods use weapons? Initially, what do? They resolve conflict through non-violent means. That's the first. So you don't use the weapon that you're holding before exhausting every possible option through non-violent means. For example, a doctor will try to do everything to save one's leg before amputation. Amputation is the last stage. Krishna went one last time to Hastinapur as a peace messenger to try to resolve Pandavas' at least 5 villages. No, at least 5 huts. No. All options exhausted. Kauravas were not buying any suggestions. And then what? Then the weapons were used. Then Yudhishthira says, that's it. All options have been exhausted. Therefore, a weapon is the last resort. Which means that if one uses a weapon to inflict violence for the sake of protecting Dharma, that is not Papa Karma, because they have exhausted every possible option already before. If they don't inflict violence, then what's going to happen? Just like the Kauravas, they're going to contaminate the society. So the women are going to get contaminated, the future generations are going to get contaminated. So what do? We have to use weapons to destroy. So therefore, if we look at it from this angle, violence has its place once all options are exhausted. But violence without using these intelligent options, that is immediate Papa Karma. Therefore, just how Krishna advised what? To Arjuna, go and attack. Go and kill. Only after years, 13 years in the forest and all of these disputes that went on before, after all of that, such a long time, now go and use weapons. Therefore, weapons also have their place. How does Lord become a weapon for a devotee, for a bhakta, who is seeking the truth? The answer is through discrimination. Excellent. Vairagya and Viveka. Remember that X that I put on the board? In other words, Lord becomes the weapon, a helping weapon for a bhakta as means of seeing what is Atma, what is Anatma, what is real, what is unreal. And Vairagya, dispassion, not having so much passion for the world, for mere appearances. And what's Krishna's weapon? Sudarshana Chakra. What is Su? Su is a prefix, means good. Darshana, vision. What is excellent vision? What is good vision? Represents Jnanam, knowledge. Therefore, Krishna's weapon is Chakra of knowledge. And then Asmi Cha Makaraha Jashanam. Among the variety of sea creatures, I am Makara. And what is Makara? Amongst all aquatic animals, like the crocodile, like the shark, like the whale, that capacity to devour ferociously. You've seen a shark, right? How it grabs on like a crocodile grabs the trunk of an elephant. It doesn't let go. That capacity, I am, right there. So next time you watch a documentary on animals, it's not just a documentary on animals. It is Ishvara's glories you're seeing. Asmi Jannavi Strotasam. Among the rivers, I am Ganga. In other words, another name is Jannavi. The Ganga river is always fresh. Some say that no bacteria can thrive in the Ganga for too long. They will thrive for a while, but apparently not for too long. I haven't done the scientific tests on that, so I'm only going to go by what I heard. And a dip in the Ganga is considered to be a great papa purifier. Now the symbolism. The Ganga symbolizes what? Brahma Vidya. That means self-knowledge. Why? Let's compare. Comparing Ganga and Brahma Vidya. You can put two columns now. Column 1, Ganga. Column 2, Brahma Vidya. First of all, Ganga comes out of what? If you know the story. Lord Shiva's head. Vidya. Brahma Vidya is self-knowledge. Where does that come from? Lord Shiva's head. That's why when we chant Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam, in other words, from the first Guru, Shiva, down to the middle, Shankara, etc. Thus, Brahma Vidya comes from the first Guru, which is Lord Shiva himself. Secondly, the river, Ganga, flows from top to bottom. In other words, it goes down. In the same way, Brahma Vidya is passed down in this parampara from Guru to Shishya. In other words, from one who knows to one who may not know, or one who doesn't know. In other words, the knowledge is flowing down to the Shishya. As you will see, often the Acharya or the Guru is positioned high. You saw that? That means it symbolically represents the knowledge that is being imparted is flowing down to the Shishya. The Ganga is perennial. Perennial means it is constant. It is repetitive. In other words, it never dries up. And Brahma Vidya is perennial. It never dries up. How do you know? Well, we're learning Brahma Vidya now. The fact of doing it means it hasn't dried up for thousands of years. No amount of wars was able to take it out. No amount of conflicts and fights was able to make it extinct. Next point, if you dip into the Ganga river, you will feel what?
Cold.
Rejuvenated. Okay. Now, how does Vedanta some classes, I'm not saying all of them, how does the Vedanta make you feel? Rejuvenated, refreshed. Therefore, self-knowledge also makes one refreshed. Also, you cannot dip in the Ganga anywhere. Why? Whirlpools, rocks, fast currents. In the same way, Brahma Vidya, you cannot dip anywhere. Why? You cannot go just to go look up, okay, consciousness event, let's go. Okay, why not? Because this is a tradition and it's protected and it has a certain way of being taught. In other words, Brahma Vidya can only be received in a right environment, and that environment is the Vedanta tradition.
What do you mean when you say protected?
Protected means it doesn't get contaminated of the systems like yoga and Buddhism and Taoism. We don't allow other systems to come and distort Advaita. So we keep it pure, as taught in the Upanishads. So it's very important to protect the tradition. Sarganam adirantascha madhyam chaivaham arjuna adhyatma vidya vidyanam vadav pravadatamaham.
Arjuna, I am indeed the beginning, the middle, and the end of the creation. Among the disciplines of knowledge, I am the knowledge of the self. Of those who discuss, I am the discussion leading to truth.
Arjuna, aham adihi, mathyam cha antaha. O Arjuna, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all manifestations. Now this seems to be repeating verse 20. Verse 20 indicates Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, Karanam, in the aspect of space, spatially. In other words, I am that space which holds everything. And I am the space which accommodates everything, including Brahma Loka, all the way to the middle, Bhurloka, all the way to the end, which is Patala Loka. I am that space which accommodates all lokas. That is why when we describe Jagat, how do we describe Jagat? Time, space, and everything in time and space. And when I say everything, I'm including all lokas and all laws also. Everything depends on time and space. And verse 32, the verse we're doing now, indicates beginning, middle, and end, time-wise. Meaning, I am available before sankalpa. Sankalpa means before an intention takes place. Isn't that true? Before we do something, there's no thought, and then suddenly there's a thought. So I am there before a thought takes place. I am there while the sankalpa is turned into kriya. Kriya means what? Process of doing. So I am there upholding the very possibility of this kriya, of this process of doing a technique or doing a certain, anything that implies effort. I am also there sustaining the karma palam. In other words, whenever we enjoy ourselves, what do? Oh, I'm enjoying myself. This is so worth it, isn't it? I am sustaining that possibility. Because of me, you get to enjoy yourself because I am time. Therefore, never forget me, Bhagavan, while you're enjoying yourself. That's why we can never forget Bhagavan no matter what we're doing. Even if we discover something and we go, wow, this is so great. That lasts for how long? 10 seconds. I was there sustaining that moment. Then Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. Among various disciplines of knowledge, I am Atma Vidya. Atma Vidya, another name, Paravidya. Another name, Brahma Vidya. Another name, Atma Jnanam, self-knowledge. Among all of the disciplines of knowledge that are possible, I am the greatest knowledge called Atma Vidya. And what does this knowledge do? It reveals the eternal nature of oneself, who one really is. Knowing which, everything at once becomes known. Just like knowing the one gold, I immediately know about all ornaments. Therefore, I don't have to investigate my whole life and go get certificates at university investigating how a ring works, how a bracelet works, how a necklace works. I just have to know the one essence that pervades the entire universe. Thus, I am that knowledge which reveals that one essence. And what does this vidya do, this highest knowledge? It immediately releases one from sense of limitation. What kind of limitation? Physical, for example. How is physical limitation expressed in this world? Physical limitation means I am physically limited to just this person.
Being born.
How is it expressed? If someone's I is identified with the physical body, how is that expressed in behavior?
See, it's me and you. I'm different.
Frustration.
Yeah. So there's a separation, yeah?
Separation.
In other words, everything becomes about objects. Everything becomes about hoarding or accumulating objects and taking other objects out of my life. So this means if a person has a tendency to hoard, to accumulate, to keep buying, and just has this need to have something in their life, that is most likely a I am associated with the physical body. That means one has experiencing a physical limitation. How is an emotional limitation expressed?
Desires?
Love and hate.
Yeah, good. It's both accurate.
Yeah, selfishness, you know.
Selfishness, yeah. What do we all seek ultimately, silently? It's a silent seeking that we never acknowledge.
Love.
Love, excellent. In other words, I don't feel loved enough. I'm not acknowledged. I don't feel like I belong. I feel ignored. And even if I'm loved, I don't feel loved enough. There's always more love possible. Always looking for more acknowledgement, more, look at me, I'm important. I make a difference. So always looking for this from society, from spouse, from children, from friends, from movies, from all sorts of entertainments, to feel this sense of fullness, like I am emotionally complete. That is called emotional limitation. What does Atma Vidya do? Releases one from emotional limitation also. How is intellectual limitation expressed?
Thirst for information.
Yeah, good. In other words, the more I know, the more frustrated I get because I discover how little I know. So then how do I compensate with that? I go and learn more. In other words, the person gets into a loop. They learn about these great, fascinating things and they go, wow, but I don't know. Now I have to find this out. And they find this out. And now, when they do, they discover quickly it's related to some different keyword and also want to investigate a different niche. And there's this infinite niches to investigate. So the person has this constant need to read, to learn, to know everything. This is an intellectual limitation. If Brahma Vidya is truly working and the person is truly applying this in their life, physical limitation, they will stop hoarding, stop buying. They will get rid of things spontaneously. They will not have this need to be acknowledged, to be liked by people. To be, oh, they got, the friends there, I got no friends. This comparison leaves. And all of this need to know things, this sense of importance that I need to be someone important, to know something, that also leaves. So all these three genuinely leave. That's how a person knows Brahma Vidya is working 100%. Whereas other knowledges, including science, biology, zoology, painting, computers, electricity. I used to watch this great guy, I'm not going to say his name, on TV, had his cooking show. The women love him. And he knows everything about cooking. All your life you spend on cooking. This is called Anatma Vidya. And it leads to what? Continued ignorance, continued samsara. Now, how is self-knowledge superior? Adhyatma Vidya. Chapter 9 calls it Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. Why? Because Atma is the only reality. Everything else is mithya. Therefore, in the Katha Upanishad, Shankara says, material knowledge is as good as ignorance. This means you can know all of the knowledge in this world, and all of it is only as good as any other ignorant person who doesn't know the true nature of the self. And Newton said very nicely, Isaac Newton, he said, when I was a youth, I used to be playing on the seashore with a few pebbles. And now in my last years of life, I am on the seashore playing with a few pebbles after hundreds of discoveries. You know Newton, who made so many discoveries. After all of that, I'm still on the seashore playing with just a few pebbles.
And the ocean lies undiscovered.
And the ocean also lies undiscovered. In fact, even Narada, in chapter 7 Chandogya Upanishad, he approached Sanat Kumara and said, I have mastered 84 branches of knowledge in one kalpa. We're talking 4.32 billion years. Narada had time to master 84 branches of knowledge, which includes the knowledge of the entire universe. And he goes with all of that knowledge to Sanat Kumara and he says, you know what? Despite knowing all this, my mind is still not at peace. Help me. And we're talking 4.32 billion years of time to study. Never mind 50 years of little bit of learning here and there. So no amount of learning or knowing is ever going to fulfill the person, except Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. And that is why Sanat Kumara taught Narada self-knowledge, and then Narada was finally able to say, now my mind is at peace. What kind of knowledge? The same knowledge we're learning in class. Therefore, we don't need to go anywhere other than what's already available in Vedanta. And it's also the rarest knowledge. In chapter 2, Krishna said that despite this knowledge being available, those who come to this knowledge still do not understand because the qualifications are not there. Therefore, or it gets interpreted in the wrong way. Therefore, the person starts living in this, enlightened bubble. I am beyond this world. I am beyond words. I am beyond the guru. I am beyond the scriptures. I am beyond this. There is no guru. There is no time. There is no space. The world is an illusion. There is no place to go. There's nowhere to go. There's there's nothing. All of these things are just bubbles created by the person's ideas, misinterpretations. Aham vadaha pravadatam. I am constructive discussion which leads to truth of the matter. What do we mean by this? Whenever a conversation takes place, it has 4 frameworks, and nobody gets out of these 4 frameworks. The first framework, which goes from the highest possible communication to the lowest possible communication, is samvada. So if you write 4 communication frameworks, number 1, samvada. Samvada is the rarest, number 1. Why? Because it is between the guru and shishya. And it only leads to one single result, aparoksha jnanam, direct knowledge. In other words, in samvada, there is a mutual silent agreement that the guru will expound the knowledge, atma vidya, and the shishya will or is willing to change one's perception according to or in line with what is being expounded by the guru. And when this knowledge takes place, then the shishya just silently thanks the guru and either continues their life or they can teach it themselves. It is also the hardest because in samvada, usually it is the acharya who's speaking and the other one who's listening, because this involves the person to put their ahamkara away, their sense of I know, I am smarter, I've done more, I know so much better. This is very hard to do that. Sometimes people just get triggered, like I can't listen to this. I feel, I don't feel very well. I feel like I'm lower. So it takes a lot of qualifications for samvada to take place. The next one, which is what is being referred here, is vada. So the first one is samvada, the highest level. Next one is vada, long A, vada. Vada is when two or more people are in rapport. So there is connection. And their conversation revolves around arriving at the truth around a certain topic. They want to resolve something. So they're mutually agreeing together. They're cooperating in agreement. There may be some discussions here and there, some tension, but they're both there to say, let's arrive to the truth and let's solve the problem. In other words, they're putting their own stuff aside, their hamkara, and they're just interested in providing a resolution. And what does this do? What's the result of vada? It builds relationships. It improves the effectiveness of listening and speaking. You can either be a listener or a speaker. It doesn't matter. If you just like to listen, you're still listening. Why? Because you're interested in hearing what is being said. That means you also have a sincere interest of arriving to the truth. So when we do group work at the end of the class, sometimes that's called vada. That means people are in rapport and they want to solve something. Now, the destructive ones. Number 3, jalpa. Jalpa, jalpa. One conversation between two belief systems. I am absolutely right, absolutely correct, and you are hopelessly wrong. That's Jalpa. And not only that, but I'm going to use deception and manipulation to show how you are wrong. I'm going to use covert tactics to demonstrate how your way of seeing the world is incorrect. And I'm also going to use manipulation to try to persuade you that my way is right and your way is wrong. That's called Jalpa. What's the purpose of Jalpa? Win the argument, full stop. Next one is Vitanda. This is the most destructive. Why? Because it is a personality clash. Zero rapport. This means no matter what the other says, even if they're correct, they're still incorrect because I don't like you. No matter what you say or how good you are at what you do, you can be the best master in your field, you're still wrong. Because my interest is not to acknowledge you, my interest is to demolish you. It leads to reinforcement of one's ahamkara, of one's sense of identity. And neither have any view. They're not interested in showing their views. They're just interested in demolishing each other. So therefore, if one ever encounters the last two, there's no chance of recovery. Just leave. Only stick in Vada. And Vada happens between those who have connection or something that is in common. The other two are way too hard to recover and it's just not worth the time because the person's not interested. I believe something and I'm not going to let you persuade me because I want to persuade you too. So the last two equals ahamkara, involvement. The first two equals I am. I am the discussion leading to the truth. Akshara namakarosmi dvandva samasikasya cha aham eva kshayah kalaha dhataham vishwato mukhaha. Yes, Del?
Among the letters, I am it.
I am the A.
Sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
And I am the dvandva among the compounds. I am indeed the perennially eternal time.
Yeah.
I am the giver of karma phala, who is all pervasive.
Dhanyavada. Asmi akaraha aksharanam. I am the letter A, not A in English, but A. I am the letter A among letters. A is the most fundamental letter of all. Why? Because the moment you open your mouth, air passes through. And the sound A is generated effortlessly. You don't have to do anything, just ah. It's just so natural. And this is a fact in all languages. I am that letter. For example, when you yawn, you go like, God is doing this. If a person is on a roller coaster, they go, oh. No, they go, ah, right? If a person's falling off a cliff, I don't know who's going to survive to it. Did they go, right? No, they go, ah. Suppose a woman's in labor, pain. Does she go, grrr? No. Why? Because it's so much effort to produce any sound other than the most natural sound, natural letter called A. Yes. And this means that all other letters require effort and A alone is the one that is most natural. Just like dough. You take one dough, one A, and out of this dough you generate so many different possible shapes. In the same way, A is shaped according to how your throat is contracted or expanded, where the tongue is, how close the lips are, and how wide open the mouth is. And all that's happening is, throughout the entire time, the A is flowing through. Even right now, while I'm talking, all that's happening is the same A is flowing through. But why are you hearing sounds? Because I'm moving my mouth, moving my lips, and making contractions and expansions to the throat. Or like a flute. If you play a flute, very beautiful. But what's happening in a flute? The one same wind is passing through. And by modifying the flute, it makes these wonderful sounds. In other words, the flute, what is behind those sounds? The one same principle, that one same A. Therefore, A is upadana karanam of all letters. That means the material cause of all letters. Meaning it is the one cause of all of the effects of both sounds and letters. It is the one cause because of which all names are. Without the A, there's nothing to say. It means it's the truth of every word. A is the truth of every sound. Now, every alphabet letter has a deity attached. And what's the deity of A? If A is upadana karanam, the cause, what would be the deity? You can't say Ishwara because Ishwara is not a deity of A.
Shiva?
Huh?
Shiva?
Brahma.
Who said? Who said? Good. Why Brahma? It's a long A, Brahma.
Brahma is the creator.
Yeah, because from Brahma, all else comes. In the same way, so therefore, A stands for Brahma. Then, dvandvaha sama sikasya asmi. Amongst compounds, I am dvandvaha. Now, what is a compound? In English language, a compound is made with a hyphen. For example, if I say to you, hey, do I have to say this? I am going to a Shiva temple where I was worshipping and appreciating Shiva. Or do I just say to you this? I went to Shiva temple. You automatically know. The moment I say I went to Shiva temple, you know what went on. So I don't have to make this big, long statement. In other words, I am the possibility of a compound in language. So whenever you say these short statements, but there's so much meaning behind them, I am that possibility. Now, in Sanskrit, a compound has 4 different types. So Sanskrit compound is a little bit more sophisticated than in English. And these 4 types are further split into 7 types. And 7 types are further split into 35 types. Now, without going to the 7 and the 35, we'll go back to the 4. So, what are these 4 compounds? The first one is avyayi bhava. Avyayi bhava. This is a little Sanskrit course now. It's going to last for hopefully less than 10 minutes. This is where the first word in the compound is important. For example, if you say upakumbham, which means near the pot. Upa is a prefix. Kumbham is a pot. So the first word is important. Avyayi bhava. Next one is tatpurusha, the second kind of compound. If you say, for example, Raja Purushaha. Purushaha means worker, person, an employee of who? Raja, the king. Therefore, the second word is important. And then we have Bahu Vrihi. This is where the word that is important is not inside the compound. Remember when Vincent asked, where's the Om? It was not in the actual letters. But it said what? It said Eka Aksharam. Eka means one, Akshara means syllable. So now you have to infer, what is one syllable? Instantly, Om. In other words, the important word is not inside the compound, but the compound is a means to uncover the important word. Another example is if you say Eka Karna Anaya. So Eka means one, Karna means ear, Anaya means bring. So if you translate this, you say bring one ear. Bring one ear? What do you mean? Bring me the one-eared person. Okay. Do you mean like one who's got one ear? No. What is a one-eared person?
So half listening.
Yeah, the one who doesn't listen very well. All right. So in other words, I extracted information out of the compound. Now, what's the fourth one? Dvandvaha. This is where all of the words inside the compound are important. So if I say Ramaha Lakshmau, which means Rama and Lakshmana. In other words, both of them are important. Thus, what does Krishna say? I am both, which is actually symbolism. In other words, I am in and through all things. That means all things are in me and I am in and through all things. Aham eva akshyaha kalaha. I am eternal time. Meaning, everything gets exhausted in time, but nothing exhausts time itself. That means time continues, and amidst time, everything gets exhausted. What happens during, okay, before I go there, we just said, I am eternal time that exhausts everything, but which itself never gets exhausted. Now, what happens during samashti pralayam, the macrocosmic dissolution, when the entire world goes back into Maya potential? What happens to time?
That's Ishwar, that's Nirguna.
Yeah, but it's still
eternal. It's eternal.
It's
so
eternal,
it's
yeah.
not. So
And
it's still time.
yeah, okay. What's time? A progression. So what happens to time when it is in the solution?
It becomes a potential.
And is it still going on?
No.
Yes? Yes. Someone said yes.
It's in potential.
It is still going on.
Manifested.
It is still going. Yeah, but that's fine. It hasn't manifested, but it's still going on in potential. In other words, I never stop. That's what Krishna is saying.
So the same as
Time exists, but it's as a potential.
Time standing still.
Like, it doesn't stand still because time is ongoing progression. So the reason I brought this up is now you're going to say, how does a new universe come? Because Nirguna Brahman, who tells Nirguna Brahman, okay, now exercise your Maya power to create another Jagat? Is that how it is? No, because Brahman is Nirguna. So how does a new Jagat get into a new Srishti? How does that happen? Go back to time. Time is a potential in Maya, and it is still ticking. Because it is still ticking is why a new universe can come. If you think about a Big Bang started. Okay, well, what told it to start? The fact that time never went. This is going to answer a common contradiction. How does a universe come if everything is nirguna? Because time is in potential in Maya, and Maya is a power in Brahman. Therefore, that power is able to create a new world. Aham dhata vishwato mukhaha. My laws produce all of the results in the universe. Whose laws? Bhagavan's laws. Electricity, gravity, velocity, cause and effect laws. My laws uphold and preserve everything in the universe. What does this mean? Ishwara is karma pala data. My laws give corresponding results to corresponding jivas in a corresponding time. That means we all depend on, from a standpoint of jivas, on these laws. And how do I do this? Vishwato mukhaha. I face all 10 directions. What does this symbolize? It means I watch everything. I watch everyone. Nobody ever escapes my sight. I am the account keeper of all karmas. I am facing all 10 directions, looking, tracking everything that you do, every thought that you express, I track.